My name is Claudette McGlynn, and I am Executive Director of the Center for the Study of Multicultural Children's Literature. I'm a member of the Pre-Conference Planning Committee, and I will be your panel moderator. We have assembled an outstanding panel of experts, 6 to be exact, to discuss the topic of literacy programming, forming partnership, and sharing resources, which is essential and timely. Dr. Alire mentioned in her talk, in terms of opportunities, she said we need to step up in developing library multicultural literacy programs and collecting more multicultural materials. So this is relevant, this is timely, and I'm going to have each person introduce themselves first.
I'm Pat Mora.
I'm Maureen Costello, Director of Teaching Tolerance.
I'm Deborah Ford. I'm the Director of Library Outreach at Junior Library Guild.
Idania Patterson, Charlotte the Mecklenburg Library, also a writer.
I'm Amy Kuster. I'm the Youth and Family Program Coordinator at Skokie Public Library.
Hi, I'm Michelle Leo. I'm the Head of Education and Library Marketing for Simon & Schuster.
I am so tempted to revert to my native language, which is New Yorkese, and to speak really, really fast because I have a lot to say. Though I was asked for slides, I did not have time to put some together, and I think it actually is a good thing, because after listening this morning, I completely rewrote my notes about what I want to say, because I decided what I needed to do was be additive, not repetitious, and so much good has been said this morning. So let me tell you about Teaching Tolerance first. Teaching Tolerance works with K-12 teachers across the United States to reduce prejudice, improve intergroup relations, and to provide more equitable experiences for our nation's school children. We have always been multicultural. We believe in diversity in the broadest possible way, and we reach a lot of teachers. My magazine, oh, my team would hate that. Our magazine, 2 copies of this magazine, at least 2 copies goes to every school in the country. About 4 million people, 4 million visits to our website every year, and we have a very lively social media community of 500,000 people. Why am I telling you that? Because I'm here to help you create a demand for diverse books among teachers. That's really important. You should make no assumptions that educators know how to do this naturally, that they know how to match books to their students, or sometimes even realize that they should. And it pains me to say that, because I am an educator. Why not? Let's look at demographics, first of all. Now, this is the most recent demographics we have, actually, about the teaching force are from 2011. It will surprise nobody who waited in line at the women's room to find out that 84% of America's public school teachers are female. It will probably not surprise you also to know that 31% are over the age of 50, and that 84% of them are white. In other words, they look like me. Now, I would like to say that there's nothing wrong with that, but in fact, we know that there is something wrong with that. In addition, 40% have been teaching for 15 years or more. Now, there's good news here. This is from 2011, and the longevity has been changing. We're getting more new teachers in. We're also seeing that, of course, the age is changing. But the other 2 markers, and to some degree, the white domination is inching down a tiny bit, but not much. And women still dominate. Why is this important? Well, I went to a literacy conference a couple of years ago, and somebody announced that she chooses books based on what she likes. If it appeals to me, she said, I'm sure it will appeal to my students. Okay. Or they choose books that they have been using forever, like To Kill a Mockingbird. It's a wonderful book. I love it. But it has a white savior. The only way that we get to be sympathetic towards the black person is because he's crippled. And he has had a massive dose of injustice. And then we only get that sympathy because Harper Lee manages to present another kind of white person who is despicable. So there's, we have to break this mold somehow. And it's a problem we've talked about here, the fact that whiteness is normative, and to many people who were born white, and everything else is a special situation. I think we've seen that recently in Ferguson, with the inability to perceive that other people experience policing differently. We've seen, I think to some extent we've seen it in some of the reaction to the movie Selma. Because for some people it's really hard to have a story told from that unfamiliar perspective, the perspective of the people who were there. I mean, the criticism really has been kind of, how dare you tell this story this way? So, yeah, I find in general elementary school teachers are probably more effective at stocking classroom libraries that are more representative, but once you get into middle school, and especially once you get into high school, you have a bigger problem. Now, they're facing some real limitations these days, or some other requirements, and that's from the Common Core. And the Common Core calls for rigor, as you know, and increasing text complexity as children go through school. And however you feel about the Common Core, I think we can agree that that's probably a good thing, because we all agree that literacy is, in fact, at the base of democracy. I agree with you completely. Problem is that the Common Core came out included something called Appendix B. And Appendix B, which was the exemplars of text complexity, illustrates actually a number of things. One, it illustrates that a lot of people are not complete readers, because what they saw that as exemplar texts, and so they thought it was a reading list and a list of required books, whereas in fact it is simply exemplars of how complex text ought to be at specific grade levels. We know that that in fact is not the case, that in fact you can use other texts. And so what we've done, and you have it in your program, is we've done a couple of things. First of all, we came up with something called Perspectives for Diverse, I'm going to start first with the anti-bias framework. You're going to find some stuff that's labeled with teaching tolerance and is in primary colors. The anti-bias framework, I think, encapsulates what we see as the heart of what anti-bias means, which is positive sense of identity, appreciation of diversity, awareness of justice and particularly injustice based upon group membership, and developing in students the capacity for action and agency. We built a new curriculum called Perspectives for Diverse America, which excerpts texts at its heart. There are 300 texts that were chosen because they represent those anti-bias frameworks. I might add that publishers in the room, I'd love to talk to you about excerpting some of your texts, because it's a way of introducing those texts to teachers. We also published Appendix D, which is in the book. This is a tool for text selection that empowers teachers to look beyond quantitative analysis, in other words, what's the lexile score, and beyond the qualitative analysis of what prior knowledge do you need, but also looks at representation. Who's the author? Who's pictured? Who's not pictured? Whose voice is not being heard here? And we also publish in a magazine stories. There's an old African proverb that the lion story will never be heard as long as the hunter tells the story. We want to change that.